Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to the East-West Show with Jack Chow as the host. And we are under the umbrella of G&E TV, a great one that covers all aspects of life. Joining me today in the discussion about future versus present is my good friend, Drexel Smith, an expert of energy, better call it the nuclear energy, the peaceful use of nuclear energy. And he is a senior consultant of a huge program involved with China, US-China. And he is the only one that travels back and forth to give the guidance as what to do, what not to do. Right, so, all right, welcome to you to the show.
Thank you.
Sure. Today, obviously, we're not talking about nuclear energy. We're talking about a day-to-day necessity, which is our automobile, our cars. Speaking of cars, starting 2002 probably, or getting more and more to the eye of average Americans starting 2008, is the electronic cars, right? Somebody call it hybrid. Somebody call it, what is it, energy or green or whatever. It's the Tesla cars. So nowadays we start to see lots of obstacles, opponents about either the car itself or how the car is distributed or demonstrated or showcased. So I feel some kind of resistance about it, towards it. I'm right, I may be right, I may be wrong. So to get the answer, though, I have invited my good friend Drexel to get to the point. So I did lots of homework. Don't look down upon me. All right, good. I'm prepared. Okay.
All
right.
Share your homework.
Sure. So what is your overall picture or impression or knowledge to tell my audiences about the Tesla cars versus traditional cars?
It always comes back to electrical energy, because we need electricity to plug the car in to charge the battery. So it does relate to nuclear power, my friend.
It does. All right. It goes back to your field of expertise. All right. Okay. Let's take it that way. Okay. Sure.
No. Your point in your question about Tesla is an interesting one. Even more interesting is the fact that originally, 130 years ago, the first automobiles were electric.
All right. You mean 1889?
Yep. Yep. First automobiles, both in Europe and the U.S., were electric.
Oh, I see. I never knew that.
Yep. But there was not the infrastructure. There was not the battery technology. And we've talked about this a lot on your show about energy storage to make it efficient. The car was beautiful. It ran great, lots of power, lots of torque, but it couldn't go very far. And because there was so little electrical infrastructure,
burning
there was no
coal
place to
or
plug
burning
it into.
wood or something?
Yeah. So, as we've talked on your show, gasoline is a wonderful energy source because you get a lot of energy in a small volume. So you put gas in your tank and you can drive 200 to 400 miles. It's wonderful.
All right.
And it's so wonderful, it hasn't been easily displaced. Even though we've talked a lot about
the importance, challenged.
The importance of getting away from our dependence on using oil to burn and our dependence on this highly refined petroleum product we call gasoline. It's hard to wean us off of that because it's so efficient. You put gas in your car and you can drive it. Electricity, Now, because of some pioneering work, we can drive almost an equal distance
with
an electrical charge.
cars.
And now we're looking at systems where you drive in and they'll literally replace the battery and drive on with the recharged battery.
Instead of waiting for 3 hours to be charged,
Instead of waiting,
they replace the battery.
They just replace the whole battery. There's some number of programs that are going on right now where you have a closed system, like all the vehicles at an airport, where they can operate, or in a warehouse, they can operate 2 to 4 hours, and then they pull up, a machine extracts the battery, puts a fully charged one in, away they go as the battery gets charged. Because charging a battery takes time, because if you charge too fast, you have other electrical chemical reaction issues. It's a combination of the physics, the type of battery, and safety issues.
And the chemicals, yes.
And the chemicals involved. But I see, as this technology improves, a tremendous value in electric cars. I would certainly contemplate one, because in my current life, I drive a lot of short distances now, as opposed to before longer distances.
All right.
And I think a battery car I could see in my future personally. But I think from a technological standpoint, I think battery-oriented, electrical-driven cars is coming on stronger and stronger, and has a very good role even in the U.S. domestically.
All right, good. I would say that I can't agree with you more, because if you take our time, or if you look back into history, you will almost suddenly find out every now and then technology is being replaced, all right, by another one, by a more sophisticated one. So it's a trend of history, and it will be the trend of the future, and that I have no doubt. But to be specifically talking about this,
it's always pleasant, Jack, when you and I can agree.
Oh yeah, sure. Seldom the case, right? Seldom the case right now. Now, to talk specifically about the time now, though, we're seeing obstacles on the other side, right? And of course, the main reason of that is that the Tesla cars bring some kind of a challenge to the traditional automobile industry, right? Which sells all right, even though they're monopolized, but they see a trend of a risk they are facing. So now, how much impact, to your knowledge, does the Tesla cars? We probably use the Tesla cars as a word to define the electrical cars, right? So, what kind of impact does it bring to the traditional industry?
I'm excited.
You're excited. All right. Let's talk
positively.
About it.
I think the man Elon Musk, who started PayPal, made money, decided to say we can build rockets into space cheaper, started SpaceX, and along the way said we need a more dependable electric-driven battery car, and started Tesla. And, oh, by the way, he also started a solar energy company. He changes the game. He personally is changing the game. He said, I want to design and build a car that is first class. It's not an inexpensive car. It is a high quality car, oriented toward people that can pay a significant amount of money. I believe the base model is over $70,000, and with many options, it's about $100,000.
Yeah, you're talking about, yes.
That's a lot of money.
You're telling me that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money, yes.
Okay, but it is a very high quality car, and the demand is strong. Part of Mr. Musk's business model is to change the game. He wants to sell the car directly to the consumer.
Exactly. All right. Good.
Okay?
Good.
He wants to change the game. And that's where we now see some pushback. I don't sense there's a pushback on the electric cars. I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is he wants to change the game of the business model.
All right, good. I'm so glad that you pinpoint the theme of this session today. That is the challenge that the new concept has brought to the traditional existing ones, which is the car dealer franchise, right? So franchisation or franchisization, what kind of a system? Anyway, joining me is my good friend, Mr. Drexel Smith, and an expert of energy, talking about electric cars versus the traditional cars. So let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll find out what challenge does it bring to the market, right? As a whole. So stay with us. Hello, my dear folks, dear fellow Californians. Welcome back to the discussion about electrical cars. Joining me, my good friend, Mr. Drexel Smith, is an expert of energy, more specifically nuclear energy. And like he says, well, nuclear energy produces electricity, and electricity is charged to the Tesla cars. So we're still talking about your backyard. Now, to the point where we mentioned about the challenge to the traditional industry or traditional market that's related to the industry, that is automobile market. I recall based upon my homework, in the 1889 or the early 90s or something, the American automobile industry went franchise with a dealership. Am I right?
1917, I believe.
Oh, 1917.
And I believe the issue then was that the governments saw automobiles as pure luxury. They would never replace the horse for transportation. So it was a luxury item. So to generate the money, they imposed a luxury tax. So the automobile dealers got together with one purpose, and that was to push the government to lower
the tax,
what they called luxury tax back then. But that was only the beginning of the need to tax people for automobiles, because as we've seen for the last 100 years, to design and build the infrastructure of our highways and everything that supports it has required a tremendous investment in money, for which the driving public, you and me, expect to have beautiful roads, and we want to pay as little as we can.
All right.
And the government has figured out over the years how to get more and more tax money to pay for things. But the original notion of the dealers getting together, I believe, was 1917 for the pushback on the luxury tax.
All right.
But in the very early days, as we had originally Ford, Mr. Henry Ford was the first man not to invent the automobile. He didn't invent the automobile. He invented the production line that made the low-cost producing of an automobile.
All right. Okay.
There was a time when you could buy a Ford in any color you wanted, as long as it was black, and it was under $1,000, and the price was set by Ford. But he needed a sales distribution arm.
All right.
And he encouraged around the country dealers to set up that would sell his cars. As we saw more manufacturers come into the marketplace between the 1910 and 1940 period, during that 30 years, here in the United States, there were many automotive manufacturers. And they, for the most part, also encouraged dealers.
They named dealership.
Okay? So a businessman like you, Jack, would say,
I'm not.
I know how to sell cars,
All right.
but you can sell me anything.
which I
You
don't.
could sell cars.
Which I don't. Go ahead.
But if you thought you could sell cars, you would have to make an investment. You would need to buy a store, and then the automobile manufacturers would say, if you're going to be my dealer, you're required to sell this many cars.
I give you consignment.
And the major automotive manufacturers began to be very pushy on the dealers, making hard commitments.
I see.
Well, the dealers, having made investments in their stores and acquiring cars to sell, said, wait a minute, you manufacturer, you think you're the big guy. I'm going to go to the government and get some laws that'll protect me.
Okay.
Okay?
Which they did.
Which they did. So now we have the automobile manufacturers getting very powerful, the biggest industries in the United States. And we also had this growing number of dealers becoming powerful.
All right. Franchise themselves.
Okay? And both of them are going to the government asking for legislation to protect
for
them.
Laws to get them protected.
Okay?
Yes.
I make the argument that began to end the capitalistic way. If we had just let the government stay out of it, let the free market enterprise work,
Take care of it.
take care of it, it might be a different answer. But we didn't do that.
All right.
Now, you get into the 1930s, there are many manufacturers. Sales are dropping because of the world depression that started in 1929. Competition growing, money harder to get, the dealers being forced to accept to sell more cars. The dealers started making other deals. They just didn't become a new car seller. They started adding in the service and repair of cars. They started selling warranty insurance. They started selling financing. That if you didn't have the cash, now the dealers expanded who they were in the marketplace.
I see.
Not just a new car sales. Well, local cities and counties began to see the sale of a car is a big deal. And when they put in sales tax, all of a sudden car dealers became their best friend because it was the biggest revenue for taxes.
Okay, all right, I see the point.
So now see the picture. You've got the automobile manufacturers, the biggest business and industry in our country, powerful, buyers of steel and everything, that are saying to the government, I'm big, I'm your biggest industry, I want a lot of breaks and laws that favor me. Now we have 20,000 car dealers in the country. Their best friends are the local mayor because they're generating taxes for the city, right? They're supporting the banks and the finance people. They're doing repair. They're selling now used cars. They become a powerful industry and they want laws to favor them. So now, here we are 60 years later, we have a big bowl like spaghetti. It is a mess because they both have put laws in to protect each other and maybe from each other. And along comes Elon Musk with Motors that says, I want to change the game.
Yeah, all right, okay, here comes the change.
Here comes the change. And now everybody's going, oh my God. We have this very delicate balance, this complicated bowl of spaghetti. Save my taxes, save my business. I've invested all this money as a dealer. You gotta help me. From the big guy making cars. And the guy making cars says, I've got all this worldwide competition. You need laws that favor me. And all of a sudden,
the
motor guy comes along and says, forget all that.
I really appreciate the fact that you brought us a lecture on the car industry ever since the beginning, to include the dealership, the birth of dealership, and the birth of automobile industry laws.
I apologize if I lecture.
Come on, that was a good lecture, especially for young people who know nothing about the whole thing. It's always good to know where this came from, right? How was it created? From which angle was it created? From which angle it is pushing? To which direction this is our pushing, right? The thing is that it's all to my point. I'm a man kind of knowing a little bit. Well, the other part, I'm still benighted. Okay, now, talking about that though, I see still the automobile industry, the dealership franchises, what they are talking about is still protection of the group interest.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
As versus the new birth of the Tesla cars.
Absolutely.
Am I right?
Absolutely.
Because Tesla cars are kind of set to break the rules by selling the cars through their galleries, which they say we never sold the car through galleries. We just do the advertising, do the promotion, and if they buy, they go back buy from the manufacturer. In other words, the manufacturer sells cars, right? And in the original picture, the traditional picture, even the manufacturer do not sell. They assign the dealers to sell. Now, my question, just before the break though, and you can take the break moment to think, to fake out some answers though, why would the manufacturers need dealers if consumers are the ones to be protected, right? Would it be cheaper, much cheaper, to get rid of those extra charges as a dealers, the manager of dealers, the boss of dealers, the air conditioner of dealership, the building of dealership, the whatever the dealership, to go directly to the manufacturer? Why do we need dealers, right? So that is my question. So to get rid of dealers, is that a trend, or is it possible, or something thinkable, workable, at least, well, manageable, something like that? Or totally, we're talking about a new revolution. So, my audience, stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello, my dear folks. Welcome back to the show. Jack Chow on East West with G&E TV. Joining me today is my good friend, Mr. Drexel Smith, an expert on energy, including new energy, putting it that way though. We're talking about Tesla cars versus the traditional automobile industry in two folds. Number one fold, the manufacturers themselves. Number two folds, the dealers among themselves. So now, I was leaving a question to my good friend, Drexel, is that when we start to see obstacles, they basically talk about the fact that Tesla tries to sell their cars without getting into the franchise. of dealership, right?
Right. They want to sell direct.
Yeah, they do the thing right? Do they have a right to do so, or do they not have a right to do so? Or what will happen if they insist on doing so? And there are lawsuits that failed one after another that waged by the automobile industry traditionally. So would there be new ones? What's your take about the whole thing?
Well, let me come back to my concluding remarks from
Concluding lecture.
from my earlier lecture.
Our early lecture. Okay, good.
I see the last 100 years of laws that protect the industry manufacturers and laws that protect the dealers. Today, almost like this complicated bowl of spaghetti. We have made it so complicated. And each of those, let's even assume, were good intentioned. The local city has now invested money through its redevelopment agency to encourage a dealer to come in because they want the car dealer in their city to generate sales tax. The automobile dealers argue that they are the ones that set the price through negotiation.
Exactly. Exactly.
And they argue that the consumer, you and I, get a better deal through price negotiation.
Let me do a little insertion.
Because there's competitors at the dealer
level.
level.
A little insertion, right? On the window stickers always say manufacturer suggested price, right?
Yeah.
Which appears to be a lot higher than the dealer selling price.
Yes.
Every time I see that, I say, come on, this is a total lie. A total lie. How come manufacturers suggest to sell higher than the dealers? If dealers want to reduce the price, where they get the bread money?
Yep. That's exactly the point that the dealers make, because if you pick a particular model of a car that you want, you can go to multiple dealers and negotiate one against the other for your best price.
Sure.
The dealers believe that that gives power to the consumer. Okay? Let me take the Elon Musk Tesla Motors
So you want to change
concept.
the game?
He says you're paying extra. At the end of the day, somewhere between 8 and 10%, I can save you from buying the car direct. You know what you want to buy. You've been to my showroom. You've seen the car. Now you can go online and buy the car direct from the manufacturer, which really has the responsibility for the car
But they sell
anyway.
much higher than traditional automobiles. You're talking about $75,000 to $80,000
Or
per
100,
car,
or 100.
or even 100.
But his point is, if you sell direct, you can save money because the dealer adds costs. At the end of the day, the dealer adds costs. So now you have this pioneering man and company that's opening the door, and now you have the big manufacturers saying, ooh, maybe now with the internet, I can sell direct too.
Well, anyway, yeah, there are.
Okay, so here on one side, in the bowl of spaghetti, you have the meatballs called the dealers that are saying, if I can exist, there's a better deal for the consumer. You have the manufacturers that say, over the last 100 years, the world has matured, people buying has matured. I can save you money if I can sell direct.
Will you excuse me if I ask one question, please? Okay. Now, the question is that if Tesla sells their cars at a much lower price, and yet as a rebounds, the traditional auto industry, from a market point of view, that we try to monopolize the market at this level, and then you are selling below. I would say they are legit to do the war, to wage the war, right? Now, Tesla sells almost double of the prevailing market price. You go check about for example, a Cadillac Sedan DeVille of 2015, right? you're talking about 40, 45K. That's it, maximum, right? Then you check something on the basic of the Tesla, you're talking about 85, even to 100. That means that they are selling almost double the price, which to my clumsy eye, I would say, oh, good to the traditional manufacturer. They're asking too much. So, well, we just sit there and let the market take care. Right? Everybody knows to count their own dollars, right? So let the market take care. Yet what we see is that it's still same amount of opticals, same amount of rebounds launched to Tesla, of Tesla cars. Now, for that as a reason, that as a background laid out, my suspicion of the traditional automotive industry, their lawsuit or whatever, is based upon their own protection of the monopolization of industry, not for a market. Not from a market point of view. Did I explain myself clear?
I'm not sure I'm with you because today,
you want me to say it again?
In the last 40 years, especially with cars being imported from around the world, there's tremendous competition for the U.S. legacy manufacturers.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly because of a competition,
yes.
Tesla selling a double price is not a fear to them. Why would they still attack Tesla? It is not because of a market point of view. It is because of a monopolization point of view.
Two reasons.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
Two reasons for the attack. First reason is Tesla Motors is an all-electric car that we're trying to promote from a environmental green energy standpoint. So the government is giving incentives to people that buy that car from the government.
I know.
And the traditional manufacturers are saying, you've done enough of that. They should no longer enjoy those incentives. That is a discussion that we can have at some point, the value of that. The other point is the dealers as a group don't want them to be successful to change the model to allow manufacturers to sell direct. So there's two separate arguments that are bombarding Tesla Motors.
And also there is
from
another
two
thing.
different perspectives.
Yeah, sure. There is another thing that you really have to pay attention to, because you and I, we sound to be too naive talking about this car versus market versus a franchise situation. You do not forget, please, there is always a challenge to the traditional gas industry, oil industry. Right?
Well, of course.
If 100% of auto drivers tend to drive electrical cars, who do we sell gasolines to, right? So automatically, without a question, the move of automobile industry is supported by the gas industry.
Sure.
With
the oil and gas industry is...
With a vast about that way, that's why we see lobbyists get the Congress members surrounded, trying to push them to make laws to shrink the Tesla cars, the electrical cars, so that they are protected. So it is something you have one-fold, two-fold, third-fold, probably, if not fourth. So let's take a short moment out. When we come back, let's still find out more if there's other more fold. So on this. Hello, my dear folks. Welcome back to the discussion. Because Tesla is located in California, we take it personal. Not personal, we take it a statewide problem to talk about, because we do not want to see anything happen to anything trying to give birth to something new, right? If it's good or bad, let history, let time take care of it, while we at least do not want to kill it at this moment. Right now, talking about the fact, the third layer, right? There are third layers. The first layer, we're talking about the market, the market and the franchisation from franchise control. And secondly, we're talking about competitions among themselves, each other.
Yes.
Right. And thirdly, we're talking about the fact that there are a bunch of lobbyists getting Congress members surrounded, and they are lobbying on a day-to-day basis, try to create laws to
protect their industry.
To protect industry by shrinking the Tesla cars.
Of course.
Right? Okay, now, and with that everything taking into consideration, though, do you think electrical cars still survive?
Yes.
Well, it will?
Yes.
How?
Demand.
Demand? Well, with the $85,000 I purchased, do you think anybody demands that? I wouldn't buy one. Even though I like it, I like the concept so much, I do not have the cash for it. And my bank wouldn't loan me. Or my bank would loan, I would not take the loan.
Right now, Tesla Motors is designing a lower cost.
And then the car looks poorer. I know that. I saw a few models, like what? Like the little Beetle, something like that.
And there are other manufacturers that are now looking at this market space that say that electrical has a future. And there's tremendous money being poured into battery technologies that make the batteries more efficient and more easy. There's these concepts, as I introduced in your first segment, about not charging but replacing batteries.
Yeah, I know that.
There's a tremendous move. And I see that in our lifetime, I see that pure electric-driven machines will become increasingly popular because of demand from people that do not want everything that comes with gasoline.
Exactly. All right. Okay.
The good news of gasoline, a lot of energy in a small space. Bad news of gasoline, it continues to be expensive, and it has tremendous environmental consequences to large fleets of gasoline.
And you have only limited resources. That's
right. That's right. So it's an eventual thing. Coming back to your point, though, about the oil and gas industry, here in Southern California, we had one of the finest public transportation systems that ran from San Bernardino all the way to Los Angeles, out into the San Fernando Valley, that connected the entire community, called the Red Car System.
Sure.
There are many people that believe strongly that the muscle to replace the red car rights-of-way with freeways
still there
was the Automobile Manufacturers Association and the oil gas industry got together to create this notion of expressways and large roadways that virtually took out all of the rights-of-way from the red car program.
Well, anyway, that's one program only. They're talking about the fact of with the existing automobile industry versus the condition of Southern California.
But they're all
yet they have to take it into consideration that there's a new merge, there's a new birth of different cars.
All of those manufacturers are investing a lot of development money.
I know.
Into electric cars.
Of investment, right? Okay, now.
Just to develop their own electric cars.
I'm confused. I'm a little confused by the fact I'm seeing, right? 30 years ago, when I first came to this country, a Toyota Corolla, for example, brand new four-door sedan type, and with a basic whatever, costs you no more than $6,000. Right? Now you go check, it's 18, at least 3 times, going triple. Right now, Later, of course, the market people started to like it, and then increase the price, going on and on. I believe their cost of production goes lower and lower. That's the only way to go to keep surviving. And in the meantime, the selling price goes higher and higher with the interest of the manufacturer, with the interest of the dealership, everything added on to make it that way, right? Now, in other words, first when you start something, first you take a loss. In your word, to invest, right? Right. Why wouldn't Tesla do the same thing, putting their prices like 85 minimum?
Because that's not the market they're going after. They're going after the market of people that can
I know.
sell a car.
And the Japan cars, when they started, they didn't go after that also, yet they reduced it to $6,000, try to make a market. Why wouldn't Tesla do the same thing?
Okay, but why does Rolls-Royce continue to exist around the world? Because there's a class.
Come on.
There's a class of people that will buy a Rolls-Royce.
Let's be reasonable, right?
Okay.
So let's be reasonable. At the time when it started, Rolls-Royce, though, it wasn't Rolls-Royce. It was just an automobile, just an automobile. They made it that way with the added value, with the promotion, with the whatever added on, right? Now, Tesla, without doing the very beginning, and from 2002 till right now, you still see within the 60 to 85 range as very basic. So my question was, right, why wouldn't Tesla start, since there's a government support, the government whatever, supplement stuff together, why wouldn't it start with a lower price rather than higher?
Because
to make a point.
No, because his business strategy was to design a very high-end car to only appeal to a certain group of people. And that group of people, they estimated, I'm sure, a certain number of cars, and they thought that they could manufacture and support that line of business.
All right.
It's a business decision.
Okay. All right.
Henry Ford decided he was going to make an automobile that everybody could afford.
So that's not their target.
20 years later, Rolls-Royce said, I'm going to build a car so sophisticated only a few people want, but everybody dreams of. And today, they're still doing that.
You're saying that Tesla is doing the things like
I'm saying Tesla decided that we're going to build a car, very high-end. We're going to appeal to a certain part of the market. We can only build so many cars a year. We don't have a giant manufacturing
back
facility.
to your old point, you're talking about Tesla is
everybody
pushing.
Targets their market for what they're going to sell.
Back to your point, you were saying that Tesla is pushing for the green concept, right?
Yes.
So with a few cars, only the top luxurious consumers can afford. Do you think they will push for the green concept?
Yeah.
Just to the contrary.
It's.
I see to the contrary. I don't see anything pushing that way.
I think that their target market, you asked me the question, why didn't they start low? They were not trying to appeal to everybody. They were only trying to appeal to those people
now you pointed out,
that were environmentally conscious that would write a big check.
Now that you pointed out, I know now as a fact, right? But the thing is that to take this fact to apply to a concept of pushing green, though, with a small efforts, with small targeted consumers, they will never realize their goal.
But
that's my point.
Okay, but look at what Tesla has said. They are designing a lower cost car to appeal to a bigger part of the market. Now, I haven't sat with Elon on this topic. I have met him. I've had dinner with him. I talked a lot about his
call him and talk about
space business. But I know him as a man and as a businessman. He entered the market with a very specific target in mind. As that market matures, he is going to offer a lower cost product. But I caution you again, all of the big manufacturers are all spending a lot of money.
to invest
in an electric car. And I also want, Jack, to introduce another comment to your Corolla discussion of over 20 or 30 years.
No, 30 years.
The cost going from 6 to 18,000. I would say to you, government regulation in those years had a major impact on the price increase of that car. Corolla, just like everybody else, now has to provide many cars for crash testing. Now they have to do all new safety systems. Now they have to do all kinds of new brake systems, redundant safety systems, electronics.
No.
Trust me on this.
So do everybody, so do every cars.
Oh, of course.
Of course, now.
But that's why
we can't pinpoint Corolla, for example.
Because the cost of every car has gone up.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
You can't buy any car for $6,000.
I'm not denying the fact that car prices going up. I do not wish to go back to the 6,000 years. I'm saying that the price rising is the trend. It's the trend. When you invest at that moment, you keep a lower price. That is how you started. And then using that as an example, as a model to apply to the Tesla situation, that raises my question why Tesla wouldn't do the same thing.
Okay.
I have no problem going against anybody. Okay. I'm not going against anybody. I have no problem understanding anybody. And of course, I do wish Tesla cars to become prevailing because we're having more than enough gasoline problems. So
I missed your point.
Yeah, sure, too. Thank you very much.
The price increase, though, has a lot to do with
and the
requirements.
Consumer index is also one consideration. When there's lots of different angles, devaluation, whatever, depreciation, those are all factors. That's the topic for another day, right? So, and I'm going over time once again. All right.
Again?
So, again, once again. So to my audience.
Thank you for a good discussion,
Sure. All right. Thank you very much for my audiences for watching this show. And to my good friend and expert of energy, Mr. Jackson Smith, here's my thank with a salute.